What's up, guys? This is Brave, and I'm back with another review of Growing Up Hip Hop. This is Season 7, Episode 8, and the episode is titled Romeo, Romeo. Let's jump right into the review. So, we actually start off with JoJo. He goes back home to see Tenise, and baby, he got on that same outfit that he was just wearing when he got the ice thrown on him. So they just continue filming. So he goes in and he tells Tenise what went down with her dad. So JoJo starts off by telling Therese that her dad is a nut. He threw a whole bucket of ice on him. And I'm like, okay, I know he threw a whole bucket of ice on you, but let's start at the top of the conversation, sir. Like, he threw ice on you because you wouldn't leave. That's why he threw the ice. Nonetheless, he goes on to tell her that, in the conversation, basically her dad wants JoJo to control her. I would not exactly say he wants you to control her because I don't think any man should be controlling any woman. However, when it comes to Tenise and her father and him being upset about her not allowing him to walk down the aisle, I think that he basically wanted JoJo to come to Tenise and be like, listen, I know that, you and your dad may be on rocky terms right now, but he possibly wanted JoJo to suggest that she still go through with allowing the dad to walk her down the aisle. But at the same time, I understand where JoJo is coming from. I can't force her hand, and on top of that, if my wife is feeling like, she's uncomfortable with you walking her down the aisle, then I'm going to rock with my wife. I'm going to go ahead and go with however she feels. Now, according to Tenise, she says that she did allow her dad to give her away at her wedding. Like, she walked down the aisle by herself, and then you have Rev Run, who's, of course, going to officiate the wedding. He's like, who gives this woman away? Her dad stands up and is like, oh, I do, or whatever. And according to Tenise, she says that it's because he was never supportive of her relationship with JoJo the entire time. And I'm like, damn, the entire time? It's been like how many years? Because she said that they met when they were like 18 years old. If they met back when like Run's house was on, because y'all remember JoJo had to be around 17, 18 in that time frame when that show was still on. Yeah, JoJo was a knucklehead. Like, let's not forget who JoJo was. JoJo used to test his daddy all the time. He was a cornball. But at the same time, because he came from a rich daddy who was a rapper, he used to try to prove how hood and street he was. Yeah, I remember that guy. So, I feel like, honestly, JoJo has probably put Tenise through a lot of things that they're not mentioning, unfortunately. I would not be surprised if earlier in the relationship they went through a lot of ups and downs. And not only because of who JoJo is and who he's related to. No, I'm talking about as far as like financials, because what job has JoJo had? Like, if we want to be for real, like, I never understood why JoJo wasn't able to finesse a job at Def Jam considering who his uncle is. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, like, they probably have financial issues. I would not be surprised if earlier in the relationship there was infidelity, all this stuff. I just feel like they probably went through a lot of ups and downs in their 20s, and her dad was probably one of the types of people that's like, listen, if you gonna be with this man who ain't gonna be like 100 with you and really be for you, then I can't help you. Now, if you were to leave this man, I can help you out. But if you gonna rock with him and he treats you bad, then yeah, I can't support that. I know plenty of people who are like that. I know plenty of people whose parents are like, if you're going to stick around and be with somebody who's not good for you, I can't help you. Now, do I think that JoJo has done a lot of growing up? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because most people grow up from their 20s to their 30s. But I feel like parents, a lot of the times, as well as like your close friends and family, they don't forget all the bad times that you may have gone through when you were dating this person. Now, is it amazing that they have been able to get married, have a family, all of that? Yes. But like I said, them family and friends, they don't forget about the bad times. So I think that Buck is holding on to the bad times, as well as there has been a lot of things that have not been resolved. Like, I feel like they got married like 2, 3 seasons ago. Where was Buck? Why couldn't y'all bring Buck on the show then? So that way he can express how he felt some type of way that his daughter got married and he didn't get to walk her down the aisle. That would have been a good scene for y'all because let's be for real, this is probably the most we've seen out of Tenise and JoJo's storyline. So, anyways, Tenise ends up calling her dad, and she's like, "Why did you throw ice on JoJo?" Or whatever. He's the father of my kids, and he's my husband. I said, "Girl, you're listing that, and that really doesn't matter to this man." Nonetheless, he goes on to tell her, "I told him to get out of my session. I can't do JoJo. He just doesn't like this man." Now, in the confessional, Tenise says that the first thing that her dad needs to do is apologize to JoJo, and then they can move forward with the relationship. I said, "Girl, I don't think you're going to get that apology just because of the way your dad is set up." Now, one thing that I actually want to talk about is the fact that Tenise says that her and her family have always been very tight knit. And even when it comes to her dad, like, he kept all his children together, he was always supportive, all this stuff. I'm like, okay, wait. So now we are finally getting into what the real issue is here. Now, she says that when she started dating JoJo, that's when all the issues started because she feels like her dad felt like, what do you need him for now? Because you're dating this man. Once she started hitting, like, I guess, some type of issues or needed help with something, her dad would be like, go ask JoJo. That's what you got him for. And she feels like she still needed her dad. And I must say, yes, you do still need your parents when you're older, when you're in your 20s, when you're, young or whatever. Hell, you actually need your parents your whole life. But I feel like there's a lot of people who feel like once you start dating someone and you're in a serious relationship and all that, don't come lean on your parents. Go lean on whoever you're dating. And let's not act like a lot of black people, once their child turns 18 years old, they act like their child can do everything on their own and they are done parenting. I'm just throwing that out there. So Tenise says that she's going to, I guess, have another meeting with her dad, and we shall see how that goes. Now let's jump on over to this scene with TT. She ends up calling Egypt, and they had this conversation. It was very light about how Egypt had a gender reveal. She's having a girl. Ooh, we're so happy. And then TT goes on to extend the olive branch and invite Egypt out to LA and was like, oh, I'm going to have like this little housewarming type party. You could definitely come. But baby, it went south real quick. And that was because Egypt was like, oh, well, while I'm there, I can have a conversation with Sean to see, why he feels some type of way about Sam. Well, this is how her invite just got taken away because TT was like, Sean's not going to like that. And we actually hear from both of the ladies' perspective of what the issue is. According to Egypt, she has no idea what the issue is between Sean and Sam. She's talking about they good over there. But on TT's end, she says that Sean has spoken his piece twice and he doesn't want to move forward and have any type of relationship with Sam. They just not friends. They don't need to be friends. And we're good right where that's at. So as they go back to the phone conversation, TT is like, I'm not really prepared to have the unit of you and Sam together in one space. They are just now getting back on talking terms. Now, she does want to be supportive of Egypt, having this baby, but whenever it comes to Sam, you already know TT is not here for it. So then she goes on to tell her, let's go ahead and table the brunch. And, maybe at a further date down the line, they could possibly meet up. I don't think that's probably going to happen. I really don't. I don't see TT being in the same room as Sam anytime. Like, one thing that's sticking out to me in this situation is why can't Egypt come by herself? Like, why does Sam even have to be there? Because I know that he, is a part of the cast. He's her husband. But if you're really trying to rebuild with your cousin, the same way that it was just you and her sitting on that couch, it's okay for you to show up to places without Sam. Just throwing that out there. But let's go ahead and move along. Y'all, let's just go ahead and jump into this storyline, which is Lil Easy and his wife Aaliyah. Y'all, we got Lil Easy in the kitchen. He's cooking up a meal. He's spreading flowers out. There's rose petals everywhere because he wants to actually do something nice for Aaliyah because she had kicked him out the house, or should I say she locked him out the house or whatever. So she comes home. She's appreciative of it, but she does bring up the fact that this gambling situation is out of control. He needs to be home more. There's times when she wants to cuddle. He's nowhere to be found. And they make a compromise. Like, this was very, very easy breezy to me. Like, it seemed like they rehearsed this or something. So he says that he can, spend more time at home, help her out with the kids, and he's going to spend less time gambling. Now, one thing that I actually want to point out real quick was the fact that if you guys paid attention to when Aaliyah actually got the flowers when he handed them to her, like, I feel like she does not receive nice gestures often just because, like, her body language seemed very awkward and stiff. Like, she didn't know to smell the flowers, she didn't know what she was supposed to do with the flowers. Like, I honestly feel like Lil Easy should probably take more time to let Aaliyah feel special because at the end of the day, she is your wife. Like, I don't know. But nonetheless, you guys, let's talk about the messy E portion because y'all already know. You can't see Eric on screen without him having a little messiness thrown in there. So he tells her that he actually got a call from somebody, which we already know is Romeo, and he's going to bring this person as his plus one to TT's party. He doesn't want to tell his wife who it is, so we already know. It had to have only been Romeo. So he also goes on to say that, with Lazy's 50th anniversary thing that he wants to do for hip hop, him and JoJo are supposed to be rapping. But guess who haven't finished their lyrics? Him. And I'm like, yeah, you could be using your time to figure out what your next rhyme is going to be instead of gambling. Sir, get your life together. Even though we already know the song ain't gonna go nowhere. But that's not the point. For the show's purpose, get your life together. So then he goes on to talk about Sam and Egypt and how, they're getting married. They're going to be going to the wedding. Well, or should I say, they're going to get married again. They're actually going to have their real wedding with everyone there. And of course, him and Aaliyah, they're going to go. But he would not be Messy E without mentioning the fact that Sam has a court date 2 days after the wedding. Now, we actually learned that Aaliyah has actually been through a similar situation with Eric, and that is because he actually went to jail at some point, and she had already had the kids, but it was her on her own trying to raise these kids. And she's like, I just hope that Egypt is surrounded by love and support because that's going to be hard. And she's not lying. Like, yes, it's great that, Egypt comes from a very loving family, but she's really going to have to lean on them if Sam ends up going to jail. Like, girl, you will probably have to move back in with your mom or move in with your dad so that you can actually get the help that you need because he got this girl living in the middle of nowhere. If he goes to jail, she's an hour and a half away from anybody that she knows. Like, that's not gonna work. It's just not. All right, y'all. I actually want to hop on over to this conversation between Denise, her dad, and her brother, who was just sitting there. I wish that he could have jumped in and kind of, tried to separate the two, or not separate them, but try to calm down the situation. But let's just get into it. Y'all, when I tell you Tanice's dad reminds me of Dame Dash so much, it's ridiculous. Nonetheless, when they finally start having a conversation, she's like, why did you throw the ice? You didn't think that was taking it too far. He's like, listen, I only got two extremes. He go from this one to that one, and JoJo definitely should have gone ahead and left, and maybe the ice wouldn't have been thrown on him. That's basically how he feels. Now, I must say, JoJo, you have known this man for 13 plus years. You know he a hothead. You should have left. Now, according to her dad, he feels like there's disrespect coming from Tanise as well as JoJo. But my thing is, Tanise is like, no, we can address our issue later. we're going to circle this back to JoJo. And I'm like, no, because the issue starts with you and your father. I feel like that's where we need to start. Like, there's something, again, like I've been saying on my other reviews, there is something that is not being said between Tanise, her daddy, and JoJo. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like there are some missing pieces to this puzzle. So we actually circle back to this wedding situation. And her dad is like, yeah, I felt some type of way that I could give you away, but I couldn't walk you down the aisle. Like, clearly that moment meant a lot to her dad, and Tanise does not care. So Tanise goes on and tells him eventually, the reason why is because he was not supportive of her relationship with JoJo. Now, her dad tells her, don't come at me the way you coming at me. And I must say, it's all about delivery and tone. Now, one thing that I will say is that as a millennial myself, I do find it interesting that now that we are older, a lot of us, we have changed the way we may have once had some type of respect for our parents, the way that we may speak to our parents. And I feel like sometimes people address their parents as if they're strangers on the street or like as if they're their friends. But I'm just like, the same way you would address your boss at work, like you wouldn't give them as much sass, you would word your words a certain way just so that you could convey where you're coming from. I feel like sometimes we need to give our parents that same energy. I'm just throwing that out there. I feel like a lot of conversations would flow a lot better because at the end of the day, both people want to be heard. And I feel like sometimes if your parents feel like you are coming at them sideways, they're going to give you that energy like, who is you talking to? Like, straight up, who do you think you're talking to? Ain't no way you're talking to me like this. I'm just throwing this idea out here. Nonetheless, back to Tanise and her father. Y'all, we actually ended this with Tanise leaving because she felt like her dad was not being accountable because he threw the ice on JoJo. And her dad said that he was not going to apologize. Do I think that JoJo deserves an apology? Yes. But also, do I feel like JoJo should come back to Buck and be like, you know what? I should have let you cool down. I shouldn't have just stayed there. And when you asked me multiple times to leave, I should have just sat there and be like, well, what music we about to play next? Because that right there, that ending scene with Buck and JoJo, especially before he threw the ice on him, that was a who's the big man on campus type scene. It was, oh, I'm kicking you out, but then the other guy is saying, nah, I'm the biggest boss up in here. I ain't gotta go nowhere. That's what that was. All that was ego and both of them trying to be the big man on campus. Goodbye. So I think that at this point, Buck should definitely apologize to JoJo for throwing the ice, but JoJo should also be like, you know what? I should have just left because the ice wouldn't have been thrown if I would have just left and let you cool off. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and move on. All right, so now we see Egypt and Sam, or should I say El DeBarge. What was happening with Sam and that hair? You know what? I'm not even about to go there. So they briefly talk about how they hope that everything goes well because they're on the way to court. Because as we know, they are waiting to hear, if he's going to be sentenced. What is he going to go to trial? Like they don't know what's going to happen with Sam in this case. Egypt actually brought up the fact that TT invited her, then disinvited her to her little housewarming thing. And then honestly, Egypt just started going on and on about all this stuff, and I stopped listening. Egypt was literally in that car rambling and going on and on. And I'm like, Egypt, shut up, please. Usually it's Sam that's getting on our nerves, but you are taking the cake right now. So, the only thing I got out of that scene was the fact that they were going to be late for court and they had to run up in the building. That's all I got. All right, y'all, we actually get a random meetup, and that is with Aaliyah, Tanise, and Cree. So, one thing about Cree is that she is going to give a slight dig every chance she gets, and these girls don't even be catching it. She's literally talking to Tanise about her relationship with her dad. So Denise is like, when I was growing up, my dad, he was everything to me. Like, I love my dad, all this stuff, right? And then I met JoJo. Y'all, why did Cree say, oh, you met a younger man that surpassed him? And I'm so confused. I am so confused. The guy that they introduced us to when they said her dad was this guy named Buck, and how he's worked with all these people in the industry who are legit names in the industry. What did JoJo do that surpassed him? Please let me know. Like, Cree, where are you getting your information from? And then what got me is the fact that they really did just cut that scene completely, because Cree was like, yeah, because that's like the same thing with Luke. Like, we're the kids. Why should you have to reach out first? And then Aaliyah chimed in and was like, yeah, well, there's some things that we can learn as the children. They cut that scene up. I said, where's the rest of it, y'all? Like, what was the point of putting that in? You know what? Let's just go ahead and move on. Y'all, we got this boring scene pop up with TT and Sean. So they're getting ready for the little party that she's throwing. First of all, it's not even a housewarming. I keep calling it that. She's throwing a brunch at her other friend's house because her other friend, Asia, whoever that is, her house is more accommodating than TT's space. Because as we already know, TT and Sean were supposedly looking for a house. We'll see if they even get one by the end of the season. No offense. Um, they are having a Jamaican themed party. Girl, all because you put like 3 Jamaican flags on a table, that does not mean that this is a Jamaican themed party. Get it together. Now, one thing that I will point out about TT is that it is her way or no way. Because Sean is talking about how, you know, him going back and forth from Jamaica to LA is a lot because it's not a direct flight. And TT's like, no, but the decision to stay in LA, like, it's the best decision, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, is it though? Because who's actually benefiting from y'all staying in LA? I'm just trying to be for real. No offense, TT, you ain't got no job in LA. Yes, you guys filmed this show. Cool, you could come out here and film. But as far as you guys actually settling down somewhere, it doesn't make sense for you to try to settle down in LA when most of this man's work is actually in Jamaica. Like, he's running a company in Jamaica. Why didn't you try to, get a place there or something? Like, I don't know. It's something about TT, like, I like her, but she just seems so snobbish and arrogant. It's like, you are the one who's creating the distance for your family. Like, you can't sit up there and whine and cry about Sean always being gone, I'm sorry, and you already know what his job was. You knew what his job was when you met him. So the fact that you're like, oh, but we need to be in LA. The only reason why you need to be in LA is for this show. You don't have no other job. You don't have no other businesses happening in LA. I mean, her family ain't even in LA. Peppa has a house in Vegas. Not TT, Egypt is in Vegas. Like, girl, cut it out. So we jump back over to Sam in Egypt. They're out of court. We learn that he has the possibility to be sentenced to 1 to 4 years, as well as 2 years probation. According to them, his court case was supposed to be February 1st. February 1st has passed. We have not heard any information about Sam, so I'm wondering if his date may have gotten pushed yet again. Now, of course, Egypt and Sam, they talk about how Egypt is going to always be supportive of Sam no matter what happens. According to them, this is a cakewalk for them because they've been through so much. I'm like, what have y'all really been through? Like, sure, there were people who were naysayers and people felt like he wasn't a good man for you, but you guys have not been separated since y'all got together, okay? And on top of that, you're bringing a baby into the world. This man could actually be going to jail for up to 4 years. And you talking about this will be a cakewalk? What drug are y'all on? Also, I just want to point out the fact that this was shot all out of order. Because how did Lil Easy know that Sam would be possibly getting sentenced 2 days after their wedding if he just now went to court at the end of this episode? This show is shot all out of order. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and move on. So TT gets a phone call from Eric. He asks her, can he bring somebody to her party? She says, yeah, sure. Y'all, now we have Romeo pulling up on Eric, who looked like he was sitting at a bus stop waiting for a ride. Yeah. So they're going to chat a little bit. And Romeo was like, he didn't like the way things left off, the last time he was actually on the show. And if y'all can recall, that was the time that Romeo decided to bring his daddy to fix his problems and fight his battles. The time when Master P was sashaying and stomping down the road with all his hips sashaying in the wind. Yeah, y'all remember that. When Romeo and Boogie were having some issues going back and forth. Y'all remember. So, according to him, now he has a daughter. He didn't like the way things left off, and he hasn't even talked to the Simmons or anything about what went down. Now, y'all, we get a flashback to whatever season that was when he was on the show and how he felt like Angela was doing too much on social media. Now, here's the thing. Considering who Angela Simmons is, she was doing too much. She was definitely moving like an Instagram girl when she didn't have to. Because at the end of the day, considering who Angela Simmons is, you are basically the daughter of rap royalty. Like, she didn't have to post Instagram photos all the time in a bikini. She didn't. Like, look at how she is with Yo Gotti now. You don't see her posting them type of photos no more. It was very like thirst trapping. It was very, hey, look at me, when nobody was paying attention to Angela Simmons. But that's okay. The problem was that Romeo, he decided that he was going to have a conversation with everybody but her about how he felt. And also, dude, I get it. Y'all are friends and you were trying to figure out why is she going down this road. But at the end of the day, it was her body, her choice, her social media. She can do whatever she wants. So, yeah. Now, y'all, according to Romeo, he says that, JoJo is the one who made this all a big deal. And I'm just like, no, JoJo was just sticking up for his sister. Like, regardless of whatever his sister is doing on her social media, that doesn't give you the right, as a friend, to try to call her out about it and try to, like, shame her the way he was doing it. Because we already know Romeo was on his holier than thou movement that he had going on. As if he had just found Jesus and he just got saved. But nonetheless, he's hoping that they can move forward and they can move past all this. So we hop on over to TT. And Sequoia actually gets there and she's like, oh, is your mom going to be here? She's like, no, she's probably not. Lazy had a show in Fresno, so she's up there with him or whatever. And I'm just like, okay, that's cool, because I'm glad that we are not going to see Lazy and Tiny at the kids' party. I'm sorry, I cannot stand seeing all the adults hanging around these kids. And I know they're not children. All these people are in their 30s, maybe late 20s. I'm not sure how old Sequoia and like Twist are. But yeah, Lazy and her mama, they can stay away. According to TT, everybody is invited except for Cree. And I said, you know what? We might have a good time here. So the next thing we see Romeo, he's in the car and he's basically pulling up to the party. And that is where we end this episode. And I'm just like, y'all played us, because y'all made it seem like we were going to be at the party and we were going to see him interact with the Simmons. We gonna have to wait till next week. Let me know what y'all thought about this episode, and I will talk to y'all the next one. Bye, guys.